Des actualités à relayer dans les journaux en kiosque au quotidien. Démarrons ce devoir avec le journal La Voix du Centre. La Voix du Centre qui titre en grande une: disparition de Samuel Ouazizi. Le CPJ dénonce le lacisme de l'État. Eh bien, dans la page 2, l'on peut lire, selon Angela Quintal, organisatrice du programme Afrique du Comité pour la protection des journalistes, le gouvernement camerounais a dissimulé pendant plusieurs mois la mort de Samuel Ouazizi malgré les demandes répétées de ses proches. Pour elle, le président de la République du Cameroun, son Excellence Paul Biya, a promis une enquête, mais 4 ans plus tard, il n'y a eu ni responsabilité ni transparence. Le même journal évoque en sa petite une la crise sécuritaire et nous informe ce matin que un groupe armé non identifié tue 4 civils à Kekoukezim. En tout cas, vous aurez les détails de cette actualité dans cette parution en kiosque ce jour. Continuons dans la même lancée pour prendre maintenant le journal Mutation. Mutation qui s'intéresse à la rentrée scolaire et titre en grand titre: établissement scolaire, 494 clandestins fermés. Selon les explications données par nos confrères dans la page 7, le ministre de l'Éducation de base évoque le défaut d'arrêté de création et d'ouverture des infrastructures dangereuses, inadaptées et incendiées, entre autres. Je vous invite à parcourir les lignes et colonnes de ce tabloïd pour plus de détails. Le journal Cameroun Tribune, arrivé à notre rédaction, le journal Cameroun Tribune s'intéresse à la sécurisation de la rentrée scolaire à Yaoundé et propose en grande une plus de 300 suspects interpellés. Eh bien, les éléments du groupement de gendarmerie territoriale ont effectué des descentes le week-end dernier dans certaines zones criminogène de la ville. Le but de cette opération coup de poing est d'assainir la capitale dans le sillage de la reprise annoncée des classes. Eh bien, dans les pages 16 et 17, vous verrez cette actualité détaillée dans ce journal de Marie-Claire Nana en kiosque ce matin. Plongeons à présent dans la santé, bien évidemment, avec le journal Santé Nature Info. Santé Nature Info: contrefaçon, attention, ces médicaments sont dangereux. C'est ce que nous propose d'ailleurs le journal en grande une ce matin. Eh bien, dans un récent communiqué, le ministre de la Santé publique, Madouda Malachi, informe que selon l'OMS, les analyses en laboratoire d'un lot de médicaments dénommés Gold Out, paracétamol et clarfomyrami maluite ont confirmé une contamination au diététhiène glycal et à la l'éthylène glycol à un taux inacceptable dont la toxicité peut entraîner des décès. Vous aurez les détails dans la page 6 de ce journal. Le même journal évoque en sa petite une Pharma Expo Cameroun 2023. En effet, le premier salon international de l'industrie pharmaceutique, des fournitures et équipements médicaux se tiendra au Cameroun du 21 au 23 septembre prochain. Une information à lire dans les lignes et colonnes de la page 3 de ce tabloïd en kiosque ce matin. Alors, continuons notre exercice avec le journal Meomé Sala. L'hebdo parle du multilatéralisme inclusif et titre en grande une: Paul Biya, fervent défenseur. Eh bien, plus loin dans les pages 6 et 7, l'on peut comprendre que lors de la plénière de clôture du 15e sommet des brisques en Afrique du Sud, par la voix de son représentant personnel, le numéro 1 camerounais a réaffirmé son soutien aux initiatives de mise en place d'une gouvernance mondiale plus juste et équitable, entre autres résolutions de Johannesburg, la réforme du Conseil de sécurité de l'ONU et la résolution pacifique des conflits sur la base de la médiation de l'Organisation des Nations Unies constituent les fondements de la vision du chef de l'État depuis de longue date. En tout cas, je vous invite à feuilleter les différentes pages de ces journaux pour savoir plus sur ces actualités mises en vitrine. Mesdames et messieurs, voilà, c'est tout pour la lecture des unes en langue française. Place actuellement à la découverte des autres tabloïds avec toi, Lasha. Une fois de plus, bonjour.
Thank you so much, Etape Quentin. Let's continue with the exercise this time around in the English language. Of course, we're going to start this morning with the Guardian Post newspaper. The Guardian Post is focusing on Back to School 2023. This morning, 1 week to start a new school year, Anglophone clergy crusading effective schooling in the northwest and southwest regions of Cameroon. Religious leaders across the restive northwest and southwest regions have flagged off a vociferous campaign for effective schooling in the two English-speaking regions of the country in an online campaign dubbed Stronger and Better Together. Back to school message from religious leaders challenged parents to defy fear and send their children to school, while encouraging government to ensure that the safety of the learners as they return to the classrooms on Monday, September 4, 2023. The clergy stated that depriving children access to education is senseless. Get the details on page 3 of this edition of the Guardian Post newspaper, talking about the online campaign that was launched recently by Anglophone clergy calling for effective schooling in the two English-speaking regions of Cameroon. Still in this edition of the Guardian Post newspaper, we are talking about former Kumba 3 mayor voted Southwest SDF regional chairman. We are told that SY mayor of the Kumba 3 council, John Connor Makia, has been unanimously elected Southwest regional chairman of the opposition Social Democratic Front, the SDF party. This was during an elective general assembly of the SDF Southwest, which took place Saturday at the Catholic Church Hall in Kumba town. Get the details on page 8 of this edition of the Guardian Post newspaper. We leave the Guardian Post. We are with the Horizon. The Horizon newspaper this morning is focusing on another scandal that has rocked the Justice Ministry in the country. After Rwanda bar exam palaver, Minjustice rocked by another scandal. Laurent Esso accused of dragging Cameroon law in the mud by admitting what the newspaper terms two candidates deemed unqualified into the Chamber of Notaries. Get the details on page 2 of this edition of the Horizon newspaper that you can find on newspapers kiosk this morning in Cameroon. We leave the Horizon. We are with the Median. The Median newspaper is taking us to the Southwest region to talk about Back to School. Kumba this time around in the Southwest region, Meme CPDM officials push for effective back to school, donate school materials to pupils and students in the council area. Get the details, like earlier mentioned, in this edition of the newspaper, precisely on page 2. On to Cameroon Insider. Cameroon Insider is interested in the 15th BRICS summit that took place in South Africa recently, with the presence of Cameroon that was felt there. In this edition of Cameroon Insider newspaper, Cameroon restates case for fairer international system. Reading further, Prime Minister Joseph Diongute, Chief Dr. Joseph Diongute, according to the newspaper, has restated the position of Cameroon that was long championed by the head of state, President Paul Biya, when it comes to the fairer and more united and more equitable world in which there is shared growth and prosperity for each and every nation. Delivering President Paul Biya's address on the last day of the BRICS summit, which took place on August 24. That is when the PM delivered President Paul Biya's message. Diongute, according to the newspaper, emphasized that Cameroon as a nation supports and backs all global initiatives being taken to ensure the rapid socio-economic development of the African continent, and of course African countries, which are often forgotten when important global decisions are being taken. Get the details of the outing of the Prime Minister. That was on the 24th of August 2023 in South Africa during the 15th BRICS Summit, as we are told by Cameroon Insider newspaper. Cameroon Insider is also focusing on back to school, especially preparations that have heightened, routes getting busier, according to the newspaper, as parents are rushing to look for admissions and register their kids. We also have people who are traveling from towns, from one town to the other, as per what the newspaper is telling us this morning, making the routes very, very busy. We end this morning with Municipal Updates newspaper. Municipal Updates is focusing on what the bishops of Cameroon are saying when it comes to back to school. Archbishop Andrew Nkea appeals to consciences in the northwest and southwest regions of the country. He has said, allow children to go to school. Those are the words of the Archbishop, as we are told. It should be recalled that the clergy in the northwest region, as well as the southwest region of Cameroon, are fronting for effective schooling in those English-speaking regions of Cameroon, as we have just 1 week to the opening or the reopening of the new academic year 2023-2024 in the country for basic and secondary education. Thank you so much, televiewers on Media Prime. We are back in the studio to continue with our discussions this morning. We are joined by Amadou Tarnteh, who is a rights activist. He is joining us on this program this morning to talk on some of those burning issues, especially back to school in the northwest and southwest regions of Cameroon. Good morning, Amadou Tarnteh, and welcome.
Once more, good morning, Mr. Lasha. Good morning to Etape. At least good morning to the telespectators of Media Prime Television. At least it's always a pleasure for me to be a guest on your program.
Yes, we are talking back to school, and this time around the bishops or clergy in the northwest and southwest regions are fronting for effective schooling in those English-speaking regions of the country. With the newspaper this morning, especially Municipal Update, is relaying the words of Andrew Nkea, who is the Metropolitan Archbishop of Bamenda. As we are told, he said, allow the children to go back to school. And some people to think that some people are still calling for children to stay at home 7 years after.
Well, I think this is a very an excellent initiative from His Lordship Andrew Nkea and his other collaborators. At least let me start by commending these men of God for this wonderful initiative. At least I think this is a moment has come when all of us, all the stakeholders in the Northwest, not only at level of clergy, even including the warring parties who are fighting on the ground, has to understand the importance of education. They need to know that whether there's fighting or going on the ground or not, the different institutions, the institutions that is concerned with learning, be it the teachers, the infrastructures, and the students need to be spared out of the world. They need to do everything possible, and all the other stakeholders, being the parents and any other person who are in this region, need to do everything possible within his own or her own reach to make sure that they encourage back to school, do everything possible to make sure that these students go back to school hitch-free without any major nuance, because education should not in any way be disturbed, because we all know that even if what the separatist fighters say they are fighting for separation, even if the students are sent out of school, or the first student that they are not supposed to go to school, and tomorrow they again that they are independent, as they are saying, it will be very difficult for them to be having uneducated people, because we can only need educated people to make sure that we do this, we develop the society, we develop the community, because without education, at least we will be moving toward doom. At least I keep saying as usual that the warring parties will do everything possible to ensure a hitch-free 2023-2024 academic year for the student in this area. Spare teachers out of the game, spare the student out of the game, and spare school infrastructures out of the game. At least we need to go with the campaign very strong all over, all Njangi houses, all the local markets, and all the lakes in the northwest and south region, to ensure that there's effective back to school by all our students without any major worries.
Okay, but the government held a security meeting in Yaoundé. We know that stakeholders have been working day and night. Joseph Betia Asomo chaired the latest security meeting in Yaoundé recently, where special instructions were given to the police as well as the gendarmerie boss when it comes to securing the people or creating an environment that will be favorable for the kids to go back to school. Will that really yield fruit? As we know, those that are sabotaging back to school, they are still very much serious about what they are doing.
Well, I think that's a good initiative from the Ministry of Defense and his other collaborators. I think it's an excellent initiative. At least that's why I was trying to say that the government alone cannot do all what is supposed to be done for these students who go back to school. At least the government has to play his own part, while the parents play their own part. The civil fighters who are there should play their own part. And other stakeholders like the clergy just did, all of them, even the imams and other like all these traditional rulers, they need to play their own parts to carry out sensitization campaign, clean up all the different schools in these regions to permit the students go to school. I think going to school is very, very important. It's true that we are all aware of what is going on the ground. At least one thing you are saying is that the war should be the students should be spared out of this war. At least they do everything possible to make sure that these students go to school. The traditional rulers they have a very good role to play with regard to what the opening of this academic year. They need to have to sensitize their population on the importance of sending their children to school, because there are so many children there who are unable to go to school and who are out of fear and out of every other things, which is not really good. At least in the future, for the future, when the students don't go to school, we have the possibility that our future, the future of our children or our other people on the ground will not be the best.
Ok, Etape.
D'accord, on reste toujours dans la même mouvance. Eh bien, coordonnatrice du programme Afrique du comité de protection des journalistes, Angelina Quinta, dénonce le laxisme de l'État vis-à-vis de certaines affaires, notamment eh bien, la non issue de l'enquête qui a été ouverte depuis 4 ans aujourd'hui concernant la disparition du journaliste Samuel Ouazizi. Il n'y a aucune responsabilité ni de transparence. Quel est votre commentaire là-dessus?
Well, let me start by saying first of all that it's regrettable that 3 or 4 years after the illegal arrest, the torture, and the murder of this journalist was Samuel Ouazizi, we are still talking about the issue of the issue now. Even more than 1 or 2 years after the government accepted the guy died in detention, the government said they were going to open an investigation. Up to date, we are not having any outcome of the investigation. This is very regrettable. At least the government need to end the impunity, because we know that sometimes those that are responsible for this act are currently they are being protected by the government, and even the corpse of Samuel Ouazizi remain unfounded up to date, despite the fact that family has been clamoring and for the government to give them the cause for them to bury, give him and to lay him officially back to rest, but the government has done little or nothing to that effect. At least the government need to do everything possible to make sure that we are in the state of law. At least we know that we are in the state of law, and the government need to always do everything possible to make sure that any such crime don't go unpunished, because we keep saying that those are some of the reasons which encourage other people to go about killings randomly, be it the defense and security forces and other people who think that they have they are in high position or they have influence in the country, so which is very regrettable. Those kind of things that keep encouraging violence and all sort of funny things in the country, which is not acceptable.
Alors le même journal, je reprends les propos de nos confrères. La voix du centre, si on peut la voir affichée sur l'écran principal, eh bien le journal La Voix du Centre dit: le gouvernement camerounais a dissimulé pendant plusieurs mois la mort de Samuel Ouazizi malgré des demandes répétées de ses proches. Alors c'est une spécialité gouvernementale camerounaise, la dissimulation des faits macabres.
Yes, that was what I was saying, because we have so many cases of murder, all sorts of tortures, and all sorts of that happening, be it in the police custody and other like. Even just last week, I saw a communique coming out from Mandela Center International and Nouveau Brother Lombo talking about another person, on civilian in Yaoundé, another person in Yaoundé who was tortured tortured to death. So those are sort of kind of things, and nothing is being done by the government. At least the case of Ouazizi and other cases, there's no exception. All these cases need to be investigated properly, and to make sure that the perpetrators of such acts are arrested and prosecuted to the highest level. That you need to face justice. I keep saying that those are the only way that can force Cameroonians or force these defense and security forces to respect the law and stop the torturing of accused persons, because sometimes we don't know the reason why people are being tortured. There's nothing in doing that. Torture is something prohibited by national and international laws.
Yes.
And this
sometimes these people are working on instruction, high instruction coming from a quarter that they themselves they don't have control over those instructions. So why do you think it's possible for such kind of cases to be investigated?
Well,
when it has to do with state issues, where people receive instruction that do this, they don't question the instruction, they just go ahead to execute.
No, well, first thing I would say here, because I know that we are in a state of law, so that is first thing we bear in mind that we're in a state of law, and Cameroon is signatory of the International Convention against of 1984 against torture.
The case of Wazizi, we saw Navy Captain Siri Search at Tonfak. He went on a sister station, yes, and granted an exclusive interview explaining the circumstances surrounding the death of Samuel Wazizi. He even called Samuel Wazizi a terrorist, if I still have my mind. So when the government or the military spokesperson came out and narrated the circumstances that was there, is that not enough for those who are clamoring that that justice has not been done when the government has come out clearly to explain actually what happened?
No, permit me to say here first of all that it's not it doesn't mean that what the government explained or the minister will come out to explain to us will definitely be the law, because we are living in a state of law, and there's a law in law. We have a penal code in Cameroon, and we equally have the International Convention against torture that has been signed and ratified by Cameroon, which has made it very clear that order from a superior cannot in any way justify torture. So all these things they are saying, they are just like making, actually call it drama. They're just making mere drama, because what they are doing does not have any significance as per the law, except maybe they are using other things, thinking that maybe as a government they have a right to kill people, and there's no law as such. These people need to face real justice. Those who are going about torturing accused person in custody, saying that they are acting on instruction of their hierarchy, they too should go in for it, because there is no justification for torture. Whether instruction from your hierarchy or whatsoever, there should be no justification for that. It's not only the case of Samuel Wazizi is not one. That's one of the cases, because they tried to paint him black by saying that he was a separatist. What about these other cases? I was talking about a GO who killed a lady in the Kribi, and up to date we don't know the whereabouts. The GO seems to have been promoted after he shot the lady to death, the girlfriend to death, and many other cases. I'm citing the other case that happened in last July in 19 July in Yaoundé, in Yaoundé, where the man was equally tortured to death. And the government need to take responsibility and make sure that they ensure that all those who are behind such acts are arrested and prosecuted. And I keep insisting that that's the only way out for the government to make other people to feel afraid, or make other defense and security forces to respect the law, or prevent them from doing such things, because they are acting out of impunity. And when others do things out of impunity and they are not punished, it encourage others to keep on going around doing the same thing, knowing that they will not be punished, because they think that they are being protected by some people somewhere in high position or in high places.
Alors, Lasha, si tu permets, on va prendre un autre sujet, mais cette fois-ci, hors de nos frontières. Le journal Méomé Salah nous informe ce matin sur le 15e sommet des BRICS qui s'est tenu récemment en Afrique du Sud, à Johannesburg. Et bien, parmi les résolutions qui ont été prises, figure la réforme de sécurité, ou bien du Conseil de sécurité de l'ONU, et la résolution pacifique des conflits sur la base de la médiation de l'Organisation des Nations Unies. Eh bien, Monsieur Amadou Tarnteh, voilà, à l'issue de ce sommet, là, on est en droit de comprendre que il y a des processus qui sont en branle pour élargir le pouvoir dans tout le monde entier. Alors, est-ce qu'on peut dire à la fin que c'est la fin du monde unipolaire?
Well, Mr. Lasha, can you just briefly describe?
Est-ce que c'est la fin du monde unipolaire? Est-ce que nous acheminons ainsi à la multipolarité?
About BRICS
voilà.
Summit, the 15th summit that took place in South Africa, and Cameroon stated its position when it comes to the new world order. He's asking that that summit which took place, the new, I don't know, new channel for a new leader, world leader to emerge? That's what he's asking.
Well, let me say that we have been having so many summits as such, but the issue is that whenever they come up with a resolution, it's very important.
To end the other people who have been, like the US and other Western world that have been leading, he's asking, this BRICS is coming to tamper with those that have been leading the world.
Well, I know that we are in a modern world today. That it's not easy for a country or maybe Africa or other countries to work individually with that, like one way or other, collaborating with other factions. So I know that Africans, first of all, let me say that Africans first of all need to do everything possible to like the meeting that was held in Africa. They need to start thinking of being independent by their own self. Because sometimes when they sit on meeting, I saw they keep saying that the other European
Russia apparently is the champion of that.
It's not a matter of being champion. Africa need to start thinking of how they are going to liberate themselves and to remain Africans and do the things in their African way and African way without having influence of any other person. You cannot be running. Sometimes if often say that it's preferable to live with a devil you know than to go for a devil you don't know. Russia is claiming out to give a very good image to us that the institution will be Russia will be a very good partner for Africa, which is to me I think is false. Even when these other people, the French and the other colony were coming and all the like, they were doing everything possible to tell us that they will be the best for us. So I think the best thing that should be done by Africans should be for them to understand themselves, keep egoism aside, come unite by themselves to make sure that we have a united Africa where they can do their things easily.
As an island, right? You cannot
do as an island. We need to collaborate with. There's supposed to be limit for everything. We need to collaborate with other partners.
So what is the reason being skeptical about Russia? Is it the human rights record, or what is it that they are not really comfortable with?
No, the first thing I would say here is that because of the human rights record we're having in Russia, we know we are all aware of what is currently going in Russia. The rate of human rights violation that is being perpetrated right away in Russia by the defense and security forces. So we are going in for a country where they are trying to do everything possible to make sure that they silence opinion holders, they silence or opinion holders, they are committing grievous human rights violations. So it's not as if I'm supporting the other partner or the like. What thing I'm saying is that Africa need to start thinking of how they can unite by themselves. Because we are here in Cameroon, we have other neighboring countries here that you cannot do. They are talking about free trade whatsoever, and all those things are ending only on papers. And so the funny thing is that some of these African leadership are really hypocrite. When they go in for a summit as such, you see them giving recommendations saying that they are coming in for pacific ways of conflict resolution. Meanwhile, they have conflict in their own country, they are unable to settle it in a pacific way. They are using violence to solve problems in their own country. But when they go to the international line, they start showing good image.
Maybe let me take the outing of the PM, and that has to do with what President Paul Biya sent him to go and do. Maybe the producer should put Cameroon Insider on the screen, talking about what the PM said during that meeting in South Africa. You know, like I earlier mentioned, the Prime Minister, Dr. Joseph Diongute, he restated the position of, or the position long championed by the head of state, President Paul Biya, when it comes to a fairer, more united and more equitable world in which there is shared growth and prosperity for each and every nation. That's what President Paul Biya said, that he wants a world where you have unity, you have equitable distribution of wealth, not just on certain part of the world. He cited Africa, that Africa is always left behind when it comes to when certain and very important decisions are being taken regarding how well the world should be run.
That statement from His Excellency President Paul Biya is just a good example of what I was saying here, because you can bear with me that President Paul Biya is talking about the equitable distribution of wealth when the rate of social injustice in Cameroon is too much. At least when we are saying something, to say charity begins at home. You cannot go to the international community and start preaching for equitable society or equitable Africa and all the like. Meanwhile, in your own country, you are unable to distribute wealth equitably. So those are the kind of hypocritical words or the kind of things that I see that make me very annoyed. Because they need to, at least we are fighting. That's why we are here fighting for injustice in Cameroon. Because we just left here, we're talking about discrimination. Somebody, a journalist arrested, tortured and killed, maybe because he's an Anglophone. Some other person because they don't have anybody in power, don't have any influence. They just arrest the person, detain you later on the beat and kill you to death. You do not have any voice or anything to say, and you go into the international community and try to go show a good image of Cameroon. Those are the kind of things. That's why we keep saying that when these things happen, the government need to play its own role, make sure that it sanction all those perpetrators.
You're speaking from a human rights defender's perspective. Not from from the way everybody wants to see things. No, they see when they talk about wealth being redistributed equitably, meaning that groups should not only be for certain continent and the African continent. No, it's not only ended, because we are talking here in Cameroon. We are talking about distribution of wealth in Cameroon. When you talk about employment, when they launch these things, when they launch concours here in Cameroon, we know what happens. Those are the beginning of distribution of this kind of things. So they launch concours here, people go right in NAM and all that. When the release comes out, you see only more than 3/4 of those that are admitted are coming from one particular part of the country, and we are talking about distribution of wealth, talking about at the international level when we are on country, we are not able to distribute the wealth. So those are the kind of things we are talking about. The
government need to do, when you have to preach something, you show an example of what you are preaching. Just don't go about and start preaching something when you are unable to do same in your own country.
President Pobia has been preaching for a very long time.
Preaching and not doing anything. That's why we say President Pobia is very good in making speech, but not in action. We want action in Cameroon. We want all these kind of things to end. Social justice to be first, social injustice to put an end to this social injustice, rate of social injustice in the country, so that we should be equitable distribution of income or wealth in all sense of it. No discrimination in any sense. No tribalistic tendency. Or people, I see people here who are going about preaching hate speech, talking about also form of tribalistic tendencies, and the president nothing is being done. Don't mean that the government keep encouraging these people. They are going to make sure that all those who are involved in all sorts of discriminatory issue or hate speech and all the like are arrested and prosecuted. Sometimes I am tempted to believe that maybe they are being backed by the same government who is supposed to protect the civilians or protect the country against any form of hate speech and all sorts of things.
Okay.
Alors voilà, on va prendre notre sujet au de l'actualité. On va rentrer bien sûr dans la rentrée scolaire puisque nous nous acheminons vers là d'ici quelques jours. Ce sera le train de la saison 2023-2024 qui va démarrer dans tous les établissements scolaires de l'enseignement secondaire. Eh bien, Mutation, arrivé à notre rédaction, le journal Mutation, nous informe ce matin que 494 clandestins ont été fermés. Alors, ceci dans l'objectif d'assainir le milieu éducatif. D'ailleurs, le ministre de l'Éducation de base évoque le défaut d'arrêté de création et d'ouverture des infrastructures dangereuses, inadaptées et accidentées, entre autres.
Amadou Tarnteh, the recent decision of Professor Laurent Serge Etundingua, who is of course the boss for basic education, he decided to close down 494 clandestine schools operating across the national territory in some regions, and not all the regions, some regions of the country. He cited those schools not having authorization to operate, to function, and also some schools that are operating in makeshift structures considered dangerous for the safety of the kids.
Well, in this situation, let me start by applauding the Minister Laurent Etundingua for this initiative, but saying that because it's very, very important, because sometimes when some of these illegal schools are operating like that, some students or children go and register in these schools, and at the end they are having problems with regard to writing. They go in for their exams because the government will say at the end, they might say that they don't recognize the institution, but that is what I think should be done. And again, it's very regrettable, as you keep saying, that we in Cameroon we have a reactive leader. Those leaders who have to wait for things to happen before they start making noise. But why must he wait for the time of school resumption? Because that's about this kind of things. At least when during the holidays, when the holidays just start, the minister need to go in on the field, verify all these schools to the school, and also they are sanctioned and measures are taken.
How did they come to play with that? Those schools even started functioning before?
I think that is the laxity of the minister himself, because I have at the regional and sub-divisional level, there are ministry, the branches of this ministry that are supposed to be delegation that are supposed to be monitoring all this situation to make sure that all those institutions that are functioning clandestinely to be identified and sent to the minister at the top, so that the minister need to do everything possible to either call them to order, or this school are closed permanently. They don't do wait for 1 day, 2 days before school resumption, and they start making noise to show that maybe sometimes we are tempted to think that even the ministers themselves are accomplice to all those type of funny things, because there's no justification for you to wait at 1 week before the school resumption. And by this time, there are so many students that have already inscribed most of those schools, and they are saying now that
where would they go to now?
That's the minister should be a cause of these things.
So if I listen to you are saying that these officials they wait
for 1 week
for the time, so that they will call when they call on this school authority, they will come and give money, and maybe
that is what I'm tempted to believe based on my own reasoning from what I'm observing, because there's no reason for you to wait only for 1 week for school resumption before you start saying that these schools have been started, this clandestine school have been closed and all that. It doesn't make any sense. No, this also kind of thing to
there are laid down conditions when it comes to operation of schools. You get an authorization for you to create a school. You get another authorization for you to operate. And then there are conditions. You need to have a playground, the space that can accommodate the kids. You don't need to build more than 3 levels for primary school, if I remember. But what is happening that some of these people, they know the rules, but they go about doing that without respecting the rules when they know very well that children are involved?
No, the thing, what I know here is that in most of these instances, we have the government, when the government give them the authorization to go and operate, and they are supposed to do all the things we are saying, that where the infrastructure are supposed to be constructed, to go and do, they'll tell this or school providers.
They're supposed to be an inspection.
That's where there is a problem, because most often when the inspector or those who are supposed to follow up from the ministry are supposed to follow up how these schools are being, things are being done, when they come there and realize that things have not been well done, they just take their own money and leave, and it end like that. That's what is being done by in this school. So they take their money and go. They go down and give an excellent report to the minister that this is how it's supposed to be, this is how it's supposed to be, everything has well done. That's the reason why even at the level of GCE, when they write in GCE, there are some schools that were given that accreditation to make sure that they accommodate students who are to write GCE in their schools, and there are conditions for school to be able to eligible to do these things. And at the end, on the last minute, they have started writing this exam. They realized some of those schools never met up the conditions, and the children were transferred from this school to go and write in another school. So that's the problem we have. And meanwhile, there were ministerial delegation who went to that school to inspect if they have met all the conditions that are so normally supposed to be before a school is eligible for candidate to sit in the state school and write in the GCE. They came and give a very nice report, an excellent report to the minister that everything has been well done. When they have taken their what they call choco and put it on their back. So Cameroon, everything they seem to be just about corruption. When the minister sent a team to this field, as I also equally sent some other people who are supposed to go. Maybe I don't so like security. Like those who are going to go in a way that the school proprietor will not know their mission, know whatsoever is being done. Do it in a very technical way to look into things to be sure that those that were sent actually did their job. So that's where there's a problem from the corruption at the level of the creation of the school to every other level.
The names are not also spelled out because they are not also left out rather because they have to ensure that construction norms are followed. When those schools are erecting their structure, the mayors are there.
They are seeing everything going on. They're watching, seeing everything going on. So, but most of these things is what I know is that in Cameroon, most of what the things that happen is that when they are doing these things, even at the level of the mayor and at the level of those delegation, the delegation, that means they are
a Red Cross here today.
Tomorrow you come, you know, see it again. I mean, why what was supposed to be rectified has not been rectified, but the Red Cross is no longer there, meaning that they have already given them envelope to solve the problem. Because the problem of everything here in Cameroon is just matter of envelope everywhere, and the children are suffering the consequences. Sometimes a student will fall, or a child will fall from a story building, all those kind of things. So those are the things that the minister need to do things genuinely. Need to take time to inspect these things to make sure that they meet the norms. At least it is for the safety of the student, of the children, and the teachers too as well.
So Amadou Tarnteh, before then, President Paul Biya, it is President Paul Biya that took the decision to partially privatize education in Cameroon because he saw that government was not able to to give education to the entire or all the Cameroonians, so decided to partially privatize education. But they had laid down rules like I earlier mentioned. Now let's talk about the responsibilities of Cameroonians and these school proprietors. What are they doing to help government educate Cameroonians?
In some of these things, there are some schools that are doing marvelous job to help Cameroon in this sense, but there are other schools that are doing little or not, that are just there to make their money. There are some schools that when they go in for this thing, they make sure that they follow all the rules that have been laid down by the ministry to ensure that their school is on standard, and all these things goes well. But there are other people that believe that since Cameroon is a corrupt country, you just have to go and give envelope for our problem to be resolved. At least that's why I was saying that the government, in fact, it's true that the government, when the government realized that they were unable to make sure that they provide accommodation on schools, infrastructure, or run school within all over the country, they decided to give some part to private sectors. At least they should that these private individuals to make sure that they respect the norms, make sure that they respect the norms. It is for their own safety and the safety of the student, of the children and students as well, safety of their teachers. So they are supposed to give a good image to their school. Because when people realize that you are not following, those who are enlightened about these rules, they realize that you are not following the normal norms that has been prescribed by the ministry. At least they would, for enlightened people, will not be able to send their children or their students to that school again, because they know that this school is operating out of the normal norms, out of the normal rule prescribed by the decree of the minister.
Okay. Voilà. L'on jette un coup de projecteur sur les établissements privés. Alors, qu'en est-il de ceux du public? Parce qu'il est force de constater aujourd'hui, dans certains établissements du secteur public, les conditions ne sont pas réunies pour l'éducation des enfants. Alors, comment comprendre que le ministre de l'Éducation de base ne se préoccupe pas également de ce pan-là, de ce côté qui revient à l'État?
Well, I know that there might be some little things that are not being done by the ministry or ministry in the educational sector, in the different ministry concerned. But to the best of my knowledge, a lot of things are being done by the level of the state institutions to make sure that everything goes well. But it's true that everything cannot be perfect. So there are a lot. I know that there are so many things, positive things that are being done by the ministry. Because one of my greatest problem is that it's just the issue of corruption. Because corruption is everywhere in Cameroon, and this those of CONAF, they just make their statement and end there. We as this thing are supposed to look critical at this thing. We know very well that in Cameroon here. Let's say in the case of Douala, we talk about a place like a lycée building in Newberry. Let me start an example. They say they don't quote institution, but let me talk about lycée building in Newberry, where you will realize that even students who have passed in list A go there for interview, and if you don't give an envelope, you will not be, your child will not definitely be accepted. There are sometimes they take some few children, students, say that these are those that merit that really merited, but the majority of the students have to give envelope or sometimes 100,000 out there before they admit students in this school. That's one of the greatest problems we are having with the government institution. But I know that with regard to these rules, most of these rules are respected by the government, and we have well-trained teachers who are doing their job well. But just at the level of the maybe at the private sector when these things are not respected. So those are the kind of things that we say that the minister needs to send delegation, except that the minister is accomplished to that. They need to send delegation because they are all aware of most of these schools, especially in towns here. They know that so these government schools, for you to send your child to government school, you need to pay. They may tell you that the school fees is 30,000-40,000. At the end, you realize that you are paying more than 100,000 because you have to give bribe before your student is admitted or your child is admitted in that same school. So those are the kind of things that the minister need to do everything possible to make sure that they monitor this situation kindly, to make sure those that are behind such things are sanctioned, appropriately pay the norms of this school.
Okay, they are sanctioned appropriately. Now, we also to traffic is getting heavier along major streets in Cameroon as back to school nears. What, according to you, should the government do to ensure that road accidents are reduced on our highways as the children rush back to school? Those that went on holidays, they are moving from different parts of the country to their respective or comfort zones. It's always a tradition for government to launch what they call special route safety when it comes to back to school.
Yeah, well, I think it's very, very important. It's a shared responsibility, as we often say that. Because I think the Ministry of Transport need to play their own part very well. Make sure that they are all over this national route to make sure that they do everything possible to make sure that the drivers limit their speed, because they are a shared responsibility. Because the drivers too, some of them are running more over speeding, running more than it's a normal thing that are supposed normal kilometers are supposed to be done per hours or something else. So the ministry need to do everything possible to make sure that all this road safety campaign is intensified at this moment, to make sure that they call these drivers into order, make sure that they ensure that even the drivers too, or the owner of this agency need to ensure that their drivers do not take something like alcohol or drugs that they know that might lead them in also accident along the way. And we know that there's one of the major problems we have in Cameroon, which is obviously one of the greatest cause of the accident in Cameroon, is the nature of our route. We know the porous nature of the route. People have refused to tar the route. They refuse to maintain the potholes that are all over the places. So those are some of the kind of things that are causing a lot of accidents in our country.
Some of these travel agencies that are not doing us good, they over labor their drivers. Well, it's time for them to make money. One driver will ply Yaoundé Douala like 10 times a day.
That's what I'm saying.
Exaggerate.
Those are the kind of things I'm saying, because I know that if the presence of road safety campaign along the way, they need to, most of these drivers, when they are parked, they identify this driver. If they realize that this driver has parked in the morning and he's coming back again and just like that, at least they need to make sure that driver.
Their drivers.
Those are the kind of things that they go. That's why I was saying that even the agent, the owner of this agency, or the directors at this agency need to do everything possible to make sure that they follow the normal rules that are prescribed by the ministry. But I know that sometimes when they go, we hear that they have had an accident, the minister will say that you have sanctioned them, you have suspended them for one month. The next day they will give the envelope of the minister and the problem will be resolved. So those are the kind of things we have in Cameroon. We need a new Cameroon where things will be done in a genuine way. We need to keep corruption. One of the greatest problems we have in Cameroon here, this issue of corruption and injustice. And we need to make sure that everything is good, because the life of Cameroonians is at stake in Cameroon, either because of these drivers or these managers of this agency, or because of the nature of our route, because it's one of the greatest cause of these things. So the government need to make sure that all these things are bad.
You need to drive carefully, right?
Yeah, that's why I said that this should be along the way. They should drive carefully, because they know that there are some of these people that don't understand these things. They don't want to go fast because they ask them to go faster so that they can go and take another passengers and all the like. So they like to do everything possible to make sure that they catch up with these things to make more money. Why the life of the Cameroonians is at risk.
Okay, we have been talking education. We keep talking education, and maybe our technicians are struggling to hook us up with our partners of ICT University based in Yaoundé. We don't know if they are ready. We'll have them to talk about the new program that has been introduced this year at the level of ICT University in Yaoundé. We are waiting on Favor Amara, of course, who is the Director of Communication at ICT University. Meantime, we continue with the discussion. Amadou, Tarnteh, 300 individuals arrested in Yaoundé. They were those that were planning to disrupt back to school. Security forces have arrested over 300 people in Yaoundé alone.
Well, I say that's
insecurity.
Insecurity is one of the greatest problems we're having here. Especially
in
major
cities.
The
political capital.
Of course. Now, Yaoundé and Douala is one of the highest country towns or regions that we have the high rate of insecurity. It's a very good initiative. I just government need to make sure that they do all such things in all these towns to prevent anything funny from happening to students. At least you need to make sure that Cameroonians who are in these cities are protected, because we have a lot of problems.
Cameroon Tribune is telling us this morning. It's not like they were arrested in connection to, or those are the people. Yes, some teams coming from the defense and security forces went down the field and they apprehended 300 suspects when it comes to back to school. Those that were planning to disrupt back to school in Yaoundé, either kidnappings for rituals or whatever, or to kidnap children, you know, and do other many shady deals. Government has arrested 300 of them. A good move.
I think this one is a good move. I just commend the defense and security forces for that. At least those are the kind of things that we're expecting from them. They need to make sure that they intensify such things in major cities across Cameroon to ensure that such things are limited. Especially in the level of kidnapping in Yaoundé. Sometimes even the level of kidnapping in Norway and South region is even less than the one that is happening in Yaoundé. The level of ritual killings in Yaoundé area. I don't know how people are killing others for rituals, to make sure that they for power issues and all the likes. And so such things the delegation need to make sure that they intensify such things, to make sure that all those who are involved in such type of crime act or suspected in any one way or the other could be connected, to be having any connection to that, should be arrested and prosecuted to stay others from doing such things.
Amadou, Tarnteh, thank you very much for coming. Thank you to televiewers of Media Prime for watching the very first edition of the Brief for the Week. We are sorry we are not able to have our partners of ICT University based in Yaoundé some other time. We'll have them to talk about the new program that they have introduced this year at the level of that university that is making Cameroon proud. We are talking about digital journalism that has been introduced this year at the level of ICT University in Yaoundé. Thank you so much. The program for the day was produced by Christain, Tebong, Etape, Quentin, and myself, Lasha Kingsley. We're here for the presentation. Wishing you a great week ahead. Bye-bye from this end.